How Katie Worked for God. A long time ago, in a place called Germany, a little girl was born. Her full name was Catherine von Bora, but everyone called her Katie. In this place, at this time, almost nobody went to school. Life was hard, and for most people, as soon as you were old enough to start doing chores around the house, you got to work. There was no time to sit around reading or studying. Katie, though, was smart, and her parents wanted her to be able to go to school. So when she was 5 years old, they sent her to a monastery. This was a place where people called monks and nuns spent all of their time working for God. It was also one of the few places where a girl could go to school. Katie did well in school. She was good at reading and at math and at organization. When she was a teenager, the nuns asked Katie to become a nun too. This meant she would stay in the monastery for her whole life working for God, and Katie agreed. She studied and she sang. The problem was that Katie started seeing things about the way the church worked that she didn't really like. The head of the church right then, the Pope, wanted to build a big fancy church, but he didn't have the money. To get money, he promised that people could buy their way into heaven by giving him money now. Katie didn't think this sounded right. Then she started hearing about a monk at another monastery close by who was named Martin Luther. Luther didn't like the way the Pope was raising money either, and he said so loudly and to anyone who would listen. He made his objections in sermons and in writing. He even nailed them to the door of a church. Lots of people agreed with Luther, but lots of people didn't, and it led to a split in the church. Luther said that the church needed to be reformed. This means it needs to be changed for the better. This split in the church has come to be called the Reformation. So, back to Katie. After this split in the church, Katie was in a monastery that was on the side of the Pope, and she didn't want to stay there. She and some friends decided that they wanted to leave. The problem was that they had all promised to stay there for their whole lives. They were going to have to sneak out, so they came up with a plan. Every few days, a person brought fish to the monastery. They brought the fish in barrels on a wagon pulled by horses. Katie and her friends decided they would wait until the fish had been taken out of the barrels, and then they would hide in the barrels and ride out of the monastery. They did it, and it worked. But oh my, were those barrels smelly. Katie and her friends had to decide where to go, so they contacted Martin Luther himself and asked for help. Luther sent some of his friends, and they found places for Katie and the others to stay while they decided what to do. After a while, Katie met Martin herself, and in 2 years, they decided to get married. Well, it turns out that Martin Luther may have been a great preacher and teacher, but he was no good at organization or money management. But Katie was. Katie ran the businesses that paid the bills while Luther talked and studied. Katie was in charge of the farm, where they had horses and pigs, and they raised and bred cows, and she oversaw the other businesses too. All of her math skills came in handy now. And she ran the home. Their home had gardens and beehives and orchards and a fish pond and 6 children of their own and 11 other children who came to live with them and a whole string of college students who came to study with Martin Luther. Katie and Martin listened to each other and respected each other. Little Katie had grown up to be an important part of the Reformation of God's church.